Captain Spot. I am your host, Ian Rhodes, 261 pounds of mostly fried food. I am filling in for Justin Freeman this week on the Captain Spot. Justin is off with a well-deserved vacation up in the mountains, so I will be going through his article with you as we talk about the Week 10 Sunday Night Football game between the Ravens and the Patriots. Let's go ahead and dive into Justin's article, and we'll look at the simulations, and we'll look at who he has in the captain spot over on DK and FanDuel, and we'll go over some of the pricing and some of the injuries. So let's go ahead and jump on in. This week, as I said, Baltimore goes to New England to take on the Patriots. The spread for this game is 7 for the Ravens. The total is 43.5. Injuries, looks like Nick Folk is questionable but will play. Damian Harris questionable but sounds like he's going to play. The same with N'Keal Harry, Ryan Izzo. J.J. Taylor is cleared to play. And Mark Ingram is questionable but had a couple good days of practice, so he is going to play as well. Let's go ahead and jump into Justin's projections for this week. We can see that Lamar Jackson leads the way for the Ravens, and Cam Newton obviously leads the way for New England. But I would not bank on Cam Newton being the highest scoring Patriot this week with that Ravens defense, and we'll look at that as we go player by player here soon. Let's look at the projections for simulations that you see on the captain spot every week. Let's go ahead and dive into those. And you can see that obviously on DK, Lamar Jackson is by far the favorite to be in the captain spot this week. And I think that's a pretty good call by the simulations. It doesn't take much for Lamar Jackson to be the leading scorer for the Ravens. If you look back over the previous 8 games that they've played in, Lamar Jackson has been the leading scorer for them in all but I believe 1 game. And so when you're talking about who is going to be the guy you want to get 1.5 points for this week, even though he's going to be the most expensive guy, it's going to be Lamar Jackson. We're talking about just getting raw points this week, which I think are going to be a little harder to come by than most captain spot slates. You'll see that some of the projections versus what I think this week are going to be a little bit different when it comes to that. I think we're going to have a lower scoring game, especially from the New England side, and so we're going to be looking for as many just raw points as possible. And Lamar Jackson obviously is a good call. He is the most expensive, and he's probably going to be the most popular guy in the captain spot. So definitely in your cash games, you're going to want Lamar. I guess we can talk about some other guys who you might put there for MME if you're just trying to be unique and different. But I think that if just your optimal lineup is definitely going to have Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, and both on FanDuel and on DK. If we look at who we have in our flex positions, obviously if you don't play Lamar in the captain spot, you should probably make sure you absolutely get him in your flex spots. The next guys the simulations like are Cam Newton, which is pretty normally you're going to see a quarterback always in the simulations, but I'll tell you why I may be fading Cam Newton this week. Jacoby Myers, again, one of those guys who the projections love, the simulations love, but I think that's going to be a lot based on the last 3 weeks and what he's done since he's been in this lineup. And those games have come without N'Keal Harry, and I think now that N'Keal Harry's back, and you're facing a Ravens defense who's probably the best pass defense that New England's seen all season. I'm not so sure that I'm going to love Jacoby Myers as much as the projections and simulations do, but again, we'll touch on that in a little bit. Other guys you see here: James White, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, Nick Folk, N'Keal Harry, Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker is the guy I'm going to like this week. We have a lot of talk in the number ball chat on kickers and defenses and how optimal they are for your lineup. But when I would look back at how Justin Tucker has performed, and you look at the raw points that he's put up all season, I believe he doesn't have any games under 7 points on the season. And when you're talking about a guy who's like $3,800 on DK, I think if I can guarantee and lock in 7 points at $3,800, I'm going to do that on this slate. As we go down here, you see Miles Boykin, Damiere Byrd, Mark Ingram, who is going to be splitting a lot of time. That's a position that on most showdown slates, I want to have some of that running back on the winning team. But who's that going to be? Who's that guy going to be if we're splitting between at least Mark Ingram and Miles and I'm sorry, not Miles Boykin, J.K. Dobbins, and then you also Gus Edwards, who's had looked pretty good in place of Mark Ingram the last 2 weeks. That's a position that's going to be hard to project who is going to get the carries, especially when you have to throw Lamar Jackson's rushing share in there as well. So if we go down to FanDuel, I think we're going to see pretty close to the same. Obviously, on FanDuel, you want to look for guys who are going to have more touchdown equity and not as much of the points per reception that you see on DK. This is the MVP assignment slot, so obviously Lamar Jackson, again, far and away the most optimal guy in that spot tonight, again, followed by quarterback Cam Newton. And then you get into basically a toss-up. Marquise Brown, Jacoby Meyer, Rex Burkhead, James White, Mark Andrews. If we head back and see who the simulation's like in FanDuel, Flex, Cam Newton actually appeared in more lineups, and that is going to be because Lamar Jackson was in so many lineups in the captain spot or the MVP spot on FanDuel that you had to have a lot of Cam Newton spots in there as well. And on FanDuel, I think it probably makes a little more sense to have Cam Newton definitely in your lineup. Just because, again, the touchdown equity, he's got 8 rushing touchdowns and only 2 passing touchdowns on the season. And so, having to try to find a New England wide receiver on FanDuel is probably not going to be your most optimal guy this week. All right, so let's head on over to DK and look at some salaries. All right, so we are looking at DraftKings now, and like I said, I think throwing Lamar Jackson into the captain spot is going to be your absolute most optimal play this week, and that's because just his ability to score points on his own without any correlation is going to be the highest on the slate. His rushing upside against this New England defense absolutely makes him the best play in the captain spot. When you look at who the other guys are that you could play in the captain spot, you look at a Cam Newton, again, against this defense, I just have no faith that he is going to be able to put up any kind of rushing numbers like we've seen in previous weeks. And that Ravens secondary is, not gonna allow. If Cam can't pass on bad teams, he's definitely not gonna be able to pass on this Ravens defense. The only game that we've seen where he's been able to really throw the ball was against Seattle, and we know that everybody is able to throw the ball against Seattle. Last week, he had 24 points, and that was against the Jets, right? And so we obviously know that the Ravens are a much better defense than the Jets. And against Buffalo, he again had 19 points, but that was with a rushing touchdown and 54 yards rushing, and I just don't see it this week. I don't see him getting 2 touchdowns rushing against the Ravens. I don't see him getting 1 rushing touchdown against the Ravens. So obviously, if I'm that strong against Cam Newton this week, it's because I love the Ravens defense this week. I love, whoops, that's the Patriots. We definitely don't want them. I'm loving the Ravens defense. And you heard me mention earlier that I'm also really liking Justin Tucker this week. When you look at Justin Tucker's production this season, like I said, he's had 7 points, 8 points, 16 points, 10 points, 8 points, 9 points, 16, and 9. So 7 points last week against Indianapolis was his worst game of the season. And at $3,800, if I can lock in, 8 points, I'm going to take it. And the New England defense has not been great this season. So do I think that they'll be able to get in field goal range? I absolutely do. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 3 extra points and 3 field goals from Justin Tucker this week. So when we're locking in Lamar Jackson and the Ravens defense and Justin Tucker, then we go ahead and, okay, who are we going to have on the New England side of the ball? Well, if I don't like Cam Newton, then I probably don't like Jacoby Myers either. And here's why. So last week, Jacoby Myers had, 31 points. Huge game. Probably going to be over-owned in this game. And again, that was against a Jets defense, not the Ravens defense. Same goes for his 13 points the week before. That was against the Bills defense and not the Ravens defense. So, yes, he's had 10 targets and 14 targets over the last 2 weeks, but again, that was with N'Keal Harry out. So add N'Keal Harry in, add the Ravens defense in, and I just don't love Jacoby Myers at $9,600. Do I think he's that much better of a play than N'Keal Harry, who's only $3,200? Absolutely not. Has N'Keal Harry done anything all season? No. But when before Bird was on the field, he had a game of 11 points, he had a game of 15 points, and if he plays tonight, he's $3,200. Do I think there's that big of a difference between Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry? $6,000 difference? I don't. I really don't. Some other guys we're looking at, we have some salary here. Who else can we throw in? Do we like Marquise Brown? Well, Brown can have big games. He can have big ceiling games. Dobbins, again with Mark Ingram back, I don't love either of these guys at that price point. Edelman's out. Burkhead, yeah, who's it going to be though? Is it going to be Harris? Is it going to be Burkhead? Harris or Burkhead? I think you probably have to have one of these guys in the lineup. I kind of like Burkhead a little bit more because he catches the ball a little bit more. Um, he has had 3 targets, only 1 target, 4 targets. He's had a game of 10 targets, 6 targets. So he does, catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit more, but James White is also around. So this New England backfield has just got way too many guys in it. Trying to pick one, I'm probably going to pick one where I can save some salary, but I think you probably have to have one of those running backs in there. And that may be all I want from New England. I think your 2 New England configurations are either going to be 1 running back and 5 Ravens, or Cam Newton and a receiver and 4 Ravens. I think you probably pick one of these pass catchers for Lamar Jackson, so you have a little bit of correlation, but you don't need a lot of correlation. The Patriots will be playing from behind in this game, so you will see Cam Newton need to throw, which may give you some upside in picking New England receiver. But I could easily see this game, being another one of these blowouts for New England. They just haven't been able to put points up on the board. And the Ravens have points come from all over the place. There's no... When Jeff does his stack sheet, you never see the Ravens up towards the top. It's because you just don't know where the ball's going to go. Is it going to go to Mark Andrews? Is it going to go to Marquise Brown? One of these guys is going to have a big game probably, but picking who that guy is not all that easy. And that's why I want to go with, personally, want to go with the Ravens defense, who I know or believe is going to be locked into double-digit points. I think they've had double-digit points 4 times out of their 8 games. And so I like having them in my lineup. I like having Justin Tucker in my lineup, where I have, a 50-50 shot again of having double-digit points from guys who are 4,500, 3,800. I like that start. So if I'm gonna, pick this week, I may like to see Mark Andrews in there if I can get Mark Andrews in there, and then if I want to go with a Cam Newton, then I can get N'Keal Harry in, right? And that leaves me about $600 left. If you think you're gonna if you need Cam in there, I like that. If you don't think you need Cam in there, then and you think that Harris is the guy, then you can get Harrison and you can get a Willie Snead in, or you can get yeah, or if you want to try to be unique and leave some money on the table, you can get Nick Folk in, because maybe you think Nick Folk will be able to get some points. Maybe they get down to the red zone but they don't score touchdowns. Then you think maybe Nick Folk gets a couple here, and you think Harris gets the rushing touchdowns. Most likely, the optimal here will be having Cam in, because he can score touchdowns on the ground. I don't think he will, but he can. Um, and if you do have Cam in, I don't know that you'll be having the Ravens defense in is the best play, because obviously those guys aren't correlated together. To have the Ravens in, you want to have Cam have a couple interceptions. So you got some decisions to make there. But I think that having Justin Tucker in, I think having Lamar Jackson in the captain spot is absolutely the most optimal way to go tonight. Let's head over to FanDuel and look at what we got here as far as pricing. Lamar Jackson being priced under Cam Newton is just insane to me. So I think obviously, again, I love Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, but you want to be different, a little bit unique. So where are we gonna go here? It looks like Damian Harrison is priced up over on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. Mark Andrews is a little bit higher. Marquise Brown, who is the second most expensive target for Lamar Jackson. The most expensive target for Lamar Jackson on DK is the second most here, and he's below Damian Harrison and Jacoby Myers. So I think I like Marquise Brown, and you saw that as he was. If we go back over to what the flex stuff looks like, you see Marquise Brown pretty high over here on FanDuel. And that makes sense because of the price difference. I saw Nick Folk there. Yeah. Nick Folk's pretty cheap, so I think that's probably why he shows up so much over on FanDuel. But again, for another 1,000, I probably like Justin Tucker more. You got the correlation of Lamar's touchdowns. Plus, we want some field goals, and think that the Ravens can definitely get into the Patriots territory, pretty well tonight. At least that's what you're banking on when you're putting Lamar in the captain spot anyway. So I like Justin Tucker as some kind of correlation with Lamar Jackson. I could see definitely throw Marquise Brown over here. Marquise Brown's going to be a guy who has a lot of deep targets and big plays, so you're not counting on him getting 10 catches. You're counting on him getting 4 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And so that makes a lot of sense over on FanDuel. You could definitely see, if you don't like Cam, Damian Harris being your target over on DraftKings because of his rushing touchdown upside. Obviously, I think rushing touchdowns upside is why Cam Newton's so expensive over on FanDuel. But again, I just don't see him being able to produce. He hasn't had a great success all season. So what makes us think that he'd have great success against the Ravens defense? And so I much rather have Damian Harris. Again, though, Damian Harris is going to be a guy who's going to get the ball a lot when they're ahead, and they won't be ahead in this game. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm second guessing myself there. I just don't love anybody on FanDuel for New England. James White is interesting, but James White is going to catch the ball a lot if they're and those catches are only worth half a point instead of a full point over on, and he's going to share with Rex Burkhead. So you're really, when you're looking for a Patriot over on DK, I mean on FanDuel, you're looking for, who do you think is going to score the touchdown? Um, I don't, Jacoby Meyer, who had, 164 yards or something last week, 169 yards on 12 receptions. Yeah, obviously 22 points is great, but on DK that was 30 points, and so that's just not going to translate over as well onto FanDuel. Um, if we start with four uh, Ravens over on FanDuel, then we got 10,000 bucks left, and you could fit in a James White, or if you want to be a little bit different, so you leave some salary on the table, a N'Keal Harry or a Rex Burkhead. Um, this is what I'm going to be looking to do tonight. I know it's not exactly what the simulations say are the best way to go, but it's what I'm going to be trying to do this week is like a 4 or 5 by 1, with loading up on Ravens and just trying to guess who that New England guy is who's gonna be their highest scorer. I don't think it'll be their defense. I don't love Cam. I could see Cam easily having like a 12-point week, a 10-point week. Um, and so you're probably looking for one of those running backs who's going to catch the ball and maybe score a touchdown, or a receiver who's going to have, one long touchdown. Um, but I definitely am going to be loading up on Ravens this week. And I think that's probably it. I know this is probably a little bit shorter than you get from Justin normally. Um, and again, if you think, who the heck is this Ian Rhodes guy? He has no idea what he's talking about. Then you can just check out Justin's numbers that he has and his simulations. These have been just money all season. I know Jeff had a couple takedowns and almost a huge takedown, and Justin has had a couple takedowns where he split a couple showdown takedowns. So the number ball guys, know what they're doing. If you're watching this over on Numberball, you can check out the optimizer. If you're watching this over on the Captain Spot YouTube page, then I would say sign up for Numberball so you can get that optimizer. That's going to really help you put together some lineups, and you can look at ownership and look at who is going to be projected highest, so you can try to have a unique lineup. I will tell you that the most optimal thing to do tonight is not going to be the most unique thing to do. I think you're definitely going to see Lamar Jackson in the captain spot in the winning lineup, but that also means that we're probably going to be splitting tonight. So where can you be different? I think I think Justin Tucker can make you a little different. I think having defense in there can be a little different for the Ravens. And then, let's guess who that New England touchdown maker is going to be tonight, and you take down the captain spot, or take down the showdown. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking with me. If you've made it through 22 or 23 minutes of listening to me today, then I really appreciate it. And Justin will be back for Thursday's game, and there'll be some more Showdown content on the site today, and check that out as well. And if you can, if you don't already, subscribe to the Captain Spot and sign up for Numberball, and take it all down tonight.